Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Chibi Trainer Pokémon Podcast, where we talk all things Pokémon, from the games to the TCG, plushes, and everything in between. I'm your host Ryan, and I like to introduce myself as a ghost-type trainer, but with like a Unova soul, like Pokémon Black and White. Now today's episode is a big one for me personally on that note, because today we're talking all things Unova, or Unova, however you want to kind of pronounce it. People just say it differently. I like Unova, but it's a big one for me personally because we're talking about my favourite region and two of my favourite games and favourite part of the anime, favourite generation, it is Unova Black and White. And I genuinely believe that Unova is one of the most misunderstood Pokemon generations we've ever had. And I think because when it first came out, it got a lot of mixed reactions. I don't think it got the reception that I think it deserved. And I think we see that a lot. We see that a lot with a lot of things. But what about now? What about today? It feels like more and more people are starting to realise that it was just ahead of its time and it tried to do so much more than I think it got credit for back in the day. So today we're breaking down what made Unova different, why it didn't land for everyone at the time, and why I think it might actually be one of the best generations Pokemon has ever had. But before we dive into today's episode, please do hit that subscribe button or follow whatever it says on the podcast platform that you're listening to this on. It really does support the show, and also there's new episodes every single week. So let's dive into this episode. Okay, so before we dive straight into why Unova was amazing and different, let's do some Pokemon news. So we've got a couple of bits going on at the moment. We've got a lot of the regional stuff for America going off, but we've also got some stuff that actually links to today's episode in a really perfect way. Today, at the time of recording this, literally on the Friday, today, we've got the first looks of the illustration rares for the Series 2 of the First Partner Illustration Collection. Now, as expected, it was the set that features Johto, Unova, and Galar, and I loved Galar and I loved Johto, but Unova is the one, obviously, like I've already mentioned, where it's going to be at for me, and they are stunning. These cards look so good. I cannot stress this enough. They look so good. So like Series 1, each collection will include a special booster pack containing 3 illustration rare promos from one of the regions, 2 booster packs and a sticker sheet. So Series 1 released on March 30th, featuring Kanto, Sinnoh and Alola. Now this one will release on June 19th, and it says around $15, which is around like £12, but I think it's around £15 in the UK, I believe they were. Series 3 is expected to release in September, including the regions Kalos, Paldea, and Hoenn. So that will round them up, right up until Generation 10, and kind of really round off the year of the 30th celebrations for all generations, all the starters that we've had throughout the games, and throughout the TCG, the anime, everything. All the regions, I guess. These are really cute. I loved the first series. I am so confused because if you get, I'm so confused with how these kind of work. I didn't manage to actually pick up any of the original first series 1 of any of these. So do these work in a way that if you have the packs, they're kind of like the special booster packs containing 3 illustration rare promos, there's not a guarantee that you'll get the one that you want, the ones that you want. Will the 3 in the set be all 3 from Johto? Are they all 3 from Galar? Are they all 3 from Unova? Or are they mixed? You know, I think this is going to be one of those products where I love a product like these, but I think I'll just be buying the singles on their own. And I do understand that this might be an expensive way to do it, if I'm honest. I think it's going to be an expensive way to do it. If you look at the price of some of these cards now, they are expensive, and it's because they're so special. You know, they are such special cards. In Series 1, they were so special. Series 2 looks the same. I can only assume Season 3 will be the same. But they look awesome, and the sticker sheets are really cute. No one really talks about sticker sheets. Everyone wants the cards. Everyone wants the cards, and they look great. The Unova ones, because it's a Unova themed episode, I will talk about the Unova ones. They've got the Pinfield Forest on there. We've got the bridge on there. We've got all the gym badges. We've got the Ferris wheel. We've got there's a little hint at the Team Plasma logo as well, which is really, really cool. I love the fact that these cards really help you kind of celebrate the region that speaks to you the most, and lets you really just live with that vibe and live with that generation and whatever starter you chose for that journey. Like, I chose Snivy the first time I think I played Pokemon Black and White, but then I also more recently went with Tepig, I believe. So, I'll play that game over and over again, over and over. But the Johto ones look absolutely adorable. They've got more of like a fall kind of vibe, which is really cute. And then we've got the Alola ones, which are so colourful. Like they've got like the Gigantamax ball. They've got the gym badges again. They've got the little they're like the old Victorian kind of like clock tower thing in Galar that's on the hill. They look awesome. Like I think that these might be stronger than the first ones, if I'm honest. I think, but I'm a little bit more biased towards these generations. I think I'm a little bit more biased, especially Gen 5. But really, really cute. We've got that coming out. We've also got Dark Abyss. Is it Dark Abyss? No, Pitch Black. We've got Pitch Black coming soon as well. That'll be the next set for the TCG that I really, really work on. I absolutely love the idea of Pitch Black. I think it looks super funky. We've got a load of like more. It's like a fully black ETB or for like a dark grey ETB. Then we've got it's all like Mega Darkrai theme. So carrying on the Mega Evolution series. But this will be the next set that I think I go for. We have got Chaos Rising releasing very soon. I think I'm going to give that one an overall miss. There are some Ghost type Pokemon that I do want to get in that set for my just Ghost type binder, but I'm not going to be collecting that set. I think I'd rather go for the set afterwards and really go for the Pitch Black full set. That arrives on July 17th, 2026. So we've got a little bit of time yet for me to save up and see how much of that I can get. I absolutely love this one. It's got Mega Darkrai. We've got some Unova Pokemon in there. We've also got a Mega Chandelier artwork on some of the card packs as well. So super happy. I am so excited. This one says, are you afraid of the dark? Some seriously sinister Mega Evolution Pokemon are creeping into Pokemon trading card game in the upcoming expansion, Mega Evolution Pitch Black, which arrives on July 17th. The expansion includes over 115 cards, more than 20 trainer cards, 35 special illustrations. So that's quite a lot, like bigger set than I thought. But it's okay enough to collect. Like, I think that's okay. Number of cards for 115, I think is okay. I'm happy with that. I didn't actually know that until I started recording that, so my reaction isn't quite as polished. But really, really cool. I can't wait for that set. It fits my vibe overall a little bit more. So I'm not a trainer that tries to collect every single set. I like to pick and choose the sets that I go with. But it does look like a great set either way. So that's been the Pokemon news. I think there's a lot to dive into. Every single week there's more and more news, I guess. But let's talk about Unova, however you want to say it, because this is where things get really interesting. This is where I will just lose it. So what made Unova so different? And I think this comes in a lot of different kind of facets and sections. One of the biggest things I think Unova did was take a risk that no generation really before it had truly taken in the same kind of way, and that was its design choices for the actual Pokemon. There's so many that are loved and hated, by me included, even someone that absolutely adores Unova. I think there's so many Pokemon that are like Marmite, some that you'll love, some that you hate, some that you love to hate, some that I absolutely adore that become iconic and that are fan favourites from this generation. We've got things like Superior, we've got like Tepig, we've got Cofagrigus, we've got Cinccino, we've got so many. Chandelure, for example, Zoroark, Hydreigon, we've got Volcarona. There's so many that are so beloved in the generation and throughout the community. And they were loved in the beginning and also even like later on in its life, like now. I think there's so many at the exact same time that didn't hit, and they don't hit for me. Things like the Pansear, Pampor, Pansage evolution line, I feel like I always feel like they were meant to be the starters, and I think they were gonna do those as the starters, and they kind of ditched it and didn't have time to add in like 6 more spots in the Pokedex. They just don't hit for me. I'm just not. But then again, I'm never a fan of like monkey Pokemon. I don't know why. I've yet to have one that really works for me. But they, to me, just don't hit. They just don't do it for me. I think that is something that's universally felt sometimes. But there's so many that are more controversial. Things like Vanillite, things like Fungus, ones such as, which one is it? Ones such as, I can't think of its name. The ones that are like inanimate objects, rubbish. The ones that are like more inanimate kind of objects are the ones that cause so much kind of discourse within the community. I think I love Trubbish. I think Trubbish and Garbodor, I say it like that and I realise watching, this is a sideline, but I realise rewatching the anime, I say it completely wrong. And I can't quite think Garbodor, I think is actually how you meant to say it. I say like Garbodor, but that is really weird. And I get it's weird. I don't know why I say it like that. But Garbodor, Trubbish's evolution line is one of the ones where people kind of hate it. I hear so much discourse about how much Trubbish is just not. Why is it a bag of trash? Essentially, it's a Pokemon that is literally a bag of trash, or Vanillite, which is just an ice cream. But I think this generation and its Pokedex was the one where they took so many design risks with the Pokemon to make it so different and so standalone. I think because we'd had so many, this was generation 5, right? We've had so many generations up until this that they wanted to completely reimagine what Pokemon looks like 5 generations in. This is so many. At this point, they were kind of looking at, do we bring in new people to Pokemon? They're always looking for new people to bring into Pokemon, but more people coming in, fresh people coming in. What are they wanting to experience? What is the look of Pokemon at 5 generations in? Because it's the first milestone they kind of hit. I think one thing that is universal is the fact that, Reshiram and Zekrom became 2 of the most iconic legendaries throughout this entire generation. They are so loved, and I love that they're so loved because they're so strong. This was a generation that really, really introduced Dragon type, and we have Iris in the anime, in the game, that really, really is the champion for Dragon types, and it's still a type that I think is so underdeveloped. I think even now it's still a really underdeveloped design, typing. I think that's something that we can really, really dive into more. Not right now, but I think Unova also forced people, because of its Pokedex, to experience Pokemon like it was brand new 5 generations in, because it was the only generation up until this point, and I think as of now, I think still, where Pokemon didn't include Pokemon from previous generations. You have to experience Pokemon Black and White from a fresh slate. There's no Pokemon that you already know. There's no Pikachu. There's no Bulbasaur. There's no Charmander. There's none of the ones that people that know Pokemon and that were returning to Pokemon to play a different game were there to experience, and there to kind of have as like a buddy that they've already had. They know the moves, they know the strength, they know what they're doing. This one was completely different. And the storyline was one of the ones where it was a lot more mature for Pokemon as well. I think it's still one of the best storylines that Pokemon has ever done. We've got N, we had Getsis, and we've got that whole vibe of is it right for us as trainers to have Pokemon as like fighting companions? Should we own them? I think it's a super interesting generation because it pointed the finger for the first time at us ourselves as the trainer in the game, as whether this is right or wrong, that we're collecting these creatures and having them battle and join us on adventures. I think that's super, super bizarre and weird that 5 generations in, Pokemon pointed a finger at itself and its own fans and created a storyline alongside that. I think N is one of the characters that has got such a cult following because it's so... His whole kind of vibe of truth and ideals, the ethics of Pokemon training, wasn't just this is another rival. This is one where Unova and N didn't just tell a story. It asked a question of us as fans and as our Pokemon trainers going into this new region. But despite all of this, Unova still didn't really land for everyone at the time. And I think it's because it was too big of a shift. And because of them having such different designs and no old Pokemon early on, I think that is why part of it didn't hit. I think people expected to always see Pikachu. People expected to always have the Pokemon from the earlier games with them in their new journeys, because why wouldn't we? For the last 4 generations, we've always had some returning Pokemon, and this Pokedex was much bigger than previous generations as well. It had a much bigger shift. It was 156 new Pokemon, like brand new Pokemon. So it was much, much bigger. So having such a big one with no returning Pokemon and such a big design shift, I think at the time, is why it kind of struggled. But now I think because it's aging, it's having such a resurgence because of its anniversary and stuff, that fans grew up, understand the themes now. There's more story-driven appreciation now. And there's also that nostalgia kicking in as well, which, I'm feeling as well. And I think there's so much more to unpack. I might have to do another episode about this, but there's so much to discuss about Unova and why it was underappreciated. In this podcast, I mention a lot about the trading card game for Pokemon, but there are so many trading card games out there to enjoy, and one of my favorite products to protect the cards that we love is Vault X, particularly their binders, but they do sleeves, card decks, and much more. I have all of my collections based in the more themed Pokemon Vault X binders that they create, which are themed for each specific set and generation. So if you want to protect your cards like I do, and like you should, to make sure that these things bring us so much joy, so why not protect them and get 10% off your order at voltex.com with code ChibiWeeb at checkout. So here, the code is CHIBIWEEB, and you can use that code at checkout and save 10% off your order. And that's if you're new or not. It's not like a one use code. You can use it as many times as you like. protect your collection that you love and, to be fair, have spent a lot of money on if you're anything like me. Protect it with the Vault X binders, card sleeves, and more. Use code CHIBIWEEB, CHIBIWEEB at checkout and save 10% off your order. I think a lot of the resurgence and new love, I guess, for Unova that I've seen comes from a lot of kind of a reappreciation for the games themselves. This was the first generation of games to have a follow-up game, and it was the anime that I think had the most generations of the anime as well, like the most seasons of the anime. So I think that's interesting. They went so hard on Generation 5, and looking back now, I'm so happy that they did, because it is the generation that makes me the happiest. It is the first game where we saw real-time seasonal changes within the games. So if you play it at winter, it's going to be wintry. If you play it in summer, it's going to be summery. That was the one time where they made the use of the Nintendo DS clock, the clock system and the date system, to make it feel as immersive as you possibly could. I think when we look back at the card game as well, it had so many different sets and styles, and they were so iconic and so different to what we kind of experienced. They really wanted to create a region that completely stood alone to the rest of it, and I think now that really stands out. Even when we look back at Alola, we look at Galar, I still think that Pokemon Black and White has the most distinctive look and distinctive vibe. I think when we look at the games themselves and how it kind of worked with, like when you cross the bridge in Unova and you have that kind of like panoramic 3D kind of vibe while you're just walking over a bridge, but they made it so immersive and so kind of weird in a way because of how you kind of pan over this bridge and how you kind of experience it in the DS. They really made use of the technology at the time and really made sure that this generation was one that stood out no matter what was to come or what was before it. I think Unova Pokemon now are so much more beloved, and I always think we've seen so many modern sets now. We have sets every single year for the trading card game. We had the anniversary set for Pokemon Black and White, which was Black Bolt and White Flare, which is obviously one I'm trying to master set, which will take me years to do. But I think it's one that we see so many Black White Pokemon in so many sets in such a large kind of quantity. Journey Together is filled with them. So is Mega Evolution. We see them everywhere, and I think Pokemon themselves absolutely love Pokemon Black and White. And I think that is the generation that they didn't get the reception that they wanted specifically. I don't think they wanted the reaction they got. And I think if it had got as much love as it does now, I think Pokemon would have shaped up a little bit different. I think it would have changed the course. Maybe not hugely, maybe not by a lot, maybe not by it wouldn't be hugely different. I think the generations will basically be the same, more or less. But I think we would have seen a slightly different version of Pokemon that we have now. Something that linked more with looking like Pokemon Black and White. This was a huge test, I think, from Pokemon to see how weird can we make a generation? How many different kind of things can we introduce into a generation? How deep can we make the message in a Pokemon game? I don't know. There's something about Pokemon Black and White that I think tells me that Pokemon just love it. They absolutely love it. I think if it was hated so much, they wouldn't include so many of those Pokemon in other sets like Journey Together, like Mega Evolution. They wouldn't do so much with it in the future like they are now. And I'm so glad it's getting the reception that it is now. I see so many people on Instagram, on TikTok that are so happy with the generation. So kind of, they've either found a new love for it or they found a resurging love for it, like a bit like I have, where looking back and I found the generation that truly, truly speaks to me and that I truly love to dive into. But there's so much I can go on to. I think we might look at another episode where we dive into Getsis, Team Plasma, and Reshiram, Zekrom. I think there's so many to dive into this. And I will talk about Unova for days. I will continue to die on this hill. I will speak about this all day. So before we wrap up, before I go on to any more tangents, I think my biggest takeaway is that Unova didn't fail. I think it was just so ahead of its time. And now people are finally catching up to what it was trying to do, what it wanted to do, what Pokemon wanted it to do. And I'd love to know, what do you guys think of Pokemon Generation 5? We've got the new cards that have been shown today and showcased today, so I really hope you love them as much as I do. But was Unova underrated, or did you love it from the start like me? Was it a generation where did you miss it? Who's to say that we play every single game? Did you miss this generation? Would you dive in now? I think that I'm interested to know what your kind of thoughts are on Generation 5, no matter where you are at on your Pokemon journey or where you're at as a trainer. I'd love to know what you guys think. Also, do let me know as well if you would like more Unova deep dives, maybe ones about the strongest Pokemon, the strongest characters, the animes, the movies. I think Unova is one of those strongest generations for me, so I love to do more for this podcast around this generation as well. So do let me know what you guys would like in the future. Well, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. There's so much more to unpack, so I think I will be doing much more in this a Unova-based series, I guess. I think we could do more for every single generation. Unova is my more natural one to talk about because it's one that gets the most love from me. It's the one where I truly found my place is with a Pokemon home, shall we say. Not the app Pokemon Home, but an actual home, a spiritual Pokemon home, which was Pokemon Unova. But let me know. I think I'd love to do, like I just said, I think I'd love to do some deep dives into Unova, maybe about the different types, things like that. Let me know if you guys would like to, or it doesn't have to be Unova. Let me know if you guys want a deep dive into like other generations, Sinnoh, Johto, Alola, Galar. There could be so much we could dive into. So do let me know. Find me on Instagram or TikTok. I'm at Chibi Trainer. So Chibi and then the word trainer, like Pokemon trainer. And find me on there. Follow me. I make loads more content rather than just this podcast. So do check me out for like Pokemon card layouts, merch stuff, videos, all that good stuff. You know the gist. But do find me on there. There's loads to enjoy from Pokemon perspective. I've been your host, Ryan. I think Unova was ahead of its time, and I think now everyone is realizing it. I hope you are as well. If not, you spent a long time with me just for the fun of it, and I love that as well. So thank you so much for taking the time today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy whatever TCG set you're enjoying. Enjoy Pokemon Pokopia if you're playing that. Enjoy whatever your day holds from Pokemon and non-Pokemon perspective. I'll see you in the next episode. It will be another week's time. I'm not sure what next week's episode will be, actually, to be honest. I am not sure. Let's see. Let's see where the wind takes us. But let me know. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, or follow whatever the podcast platform says for you. Sometimes they change it, sometimes it's different, but do follow it. Do follow the show. If you know another Pokemon trainer that would love to hear this podcast, please do share it with them. It really, really does support the show. It costs nothing to share it, and I'd be really, really, really appreciative. So thank you so much for the support, the love, everything. From one Pokemon trainer to another, enjoy, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time on another Pokemon adventure. This has been the Pokemon Podcast by Chibi Trainer. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Free audio post-production by thought-provoking.